Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here today in the session where 3 things to start and 1 thing to stop doing to close more deals in 2025. So you're in the right spot if you're looking for clarity, momentum, and results for a stronger, more successful year. We're so excited to have Alyssa here. Before she takes the stage, though, we want to dive in and thank our featured member and our featured sponsor who help make these webinars possible. And so our featured sponsor is the Nebraska Rural Electric Association, also known as NREA, and they are the voice of rural electric systems across Nebraska, advocating for safe, affordable, even reliable electricity to power our rural communities. Their commitment to supporting rural businesses and economic development perfectly aligns with our mission here at Grow Nebraska. So with NREA, it's not just about the power, it's about empowering the people and the places that make Nebraska thrive. So again, thank you to the NREA for our sponsor this week.
And our featured member is GIX Logistics, and they've been a proud member of Grow since 2023. They're based in Grand Island, and they are in the freight industry, and they have a commitment to just being transparent. They're very innovative, and they get the job done. So whether you're shipping across the country or just across town, GIX can help you connect with like shippers and carriers in real time for reliable solutions. And so definitely go and check them out. And we are very honored to work with Mike and Jeffrey as well. And today we're excited to have Alyssa with us. So I'm going to let her take it away so we can just keep learning here.
Thank you both so much. Hi, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, I hate this question, but everyone can see it. Yeah, I think we're good.
Yes, we're good.
Fantastic. Well, hi, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here speaking to you on 2025 sales and how you can ultimately increase your sales by doing these 3 things and 1 thing to stop doing. I love really like tactical presentations. I hate when people just sit and teach something for a really long time. So that is not going to be this presentation. It is going to be 3 things. You can walk out of this door, or you're probably sitting at home and you can start doing them immediately, and 1 thing to stop doing. But first, why the heck should you even listen to me, and who am I? My name is Alyssa Kropp. I am the founder and CEO of the Castle Group, where we help growth stage founders transition from founder-led sales to full functioning sales teams. I've been in sales my entire life, so 15 plus years of being an individual contributor and also leading sales teams. I'm originally from the East Coast, so I am not from Nebraska. In fact, when we moved here in 2021, I didn't know a single soul here. I had no network, no community, nothing. And in the 4 years since, I've really grown to love Nebraska and the community and the people that I've met here. And so I'm really excited to connect with everyone on this call too. If you can connect with me afterwards on LinkedIn, I'd love to follow your journeys and support your businesses. And then there's an opportunity at the end for us to connect even one-on-one if you need more sales support. I could talk to you all day about traveling, about volunteering, about the East Coast, about reading. So if sales isn't your jam and you want to talk to me about something else, you could probably find something we can connect on, I'm sure. I always really like to start these presentations just kind of getting a gauge as to the audience that I'm speaking to. And so I am going to introduce kind of 3 buckets of where you might fall on this continuum of how comfortable you are with sales. And if you could just throw them into the chat so that I could get an understanding of where everyone stands. So let's see. The first one is, you think of sales as like Hawaii vacation. This is number 3. This is, you are so comfortable and relaxed in doing sales that it just brings you this immense peace and joy. It overflows on top of you when you think about sales. You understand your sales numbers, your conversion rates, your cost per acquisition, your average rate per user, every acronym, you understand it all. You've read all of the books. You look forward to going out and drumming up new sales business. You have no problem asking people or discussing money. You believe that maybe you believe that like if someone says no, that's actually when the sale starts for you. You don't get deterred by anything. This is where you would spend 100% of your time if you could. So that's number 3. Some of you might be there. Some of you might be in number 2, and that is root canal. And so when you think about sales, it's this necessary evil that's kind of looming. You know you need to do it. Maybe you've put it off for a while. You just keep kicking the can down the road. You even know that once you commit to it, it might be a little bit painful, but after you do it, after you get it done, it's probably not as bad as you thought it was going to be. And you know that you're better for it on the other side of the root canal or on the other side of the sale. So that's number 2. You might be in that bucket. And then the final bucket is Lego walk bucket. And these are my favorite people because these are the people who would rather walk across a room entirely of Legos with ants in their pants, poison ivy all over their body, only to get to the other side of the room and then walk into a humid room with all of their high school bullies that smells of overwhelming microwaved fish. And you would rather choose that experience than doing sales any given day. Hands down, you would rather the Lego walk. So if you could just throw it in really quickly, where do you fall in this continuum? Do we have people who are like, couldn't avoid it more? They love it. Their Hawaii vacation, so peaceful. I'm seeing a bunch of 2s. Okay, so this is a 2.5. I like that, Landon. 1. Great. Okay, this is where people usually fall, which is they know they have to do sales, but they keep pushing it off. It's not something they look forward to doing. No matter where you fall on this continuum, though, this presentation is designed for you. You will get something out of it, even if you are the person who loves sales and feels this overwhelming sense of peace. I hope that today you can leave with at least one thing that you're going to do differently. I'm going to ask you to put it in the chat at the end. So if you can just be maybe jotting down a note, this will be how I gauge whether this presentation accomplished the goal that I have for today. So I'm going to ask you at the end to just have the one thing that you're going to do differently for the remainder of this year so that you can ultimately close more deals. Okay, before we get into it, I'm just going to make sure that all of us are on the same page. How many people know what a sales funnel is? Maybe just a quick show of hands in the chat. You could say I do or I don't. Anyone know? Anyone ever seen a sales funnel before? Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Angela. Fantastic. Sales funnels are important just to get us on the same page because in sales, it's not a one-to-one, meaning if you talk to one person is not going to close. Usually a good conversion rate in sales is about 25%, meaning if you talk to 4 people, one of those people are going to close with you. And so you always want to have a funnel of more people coming in that you're ultimately talking to about your product or service, so that at the very bottom, you can have the number of people that you ultimately need to close to achieve your sales goals. And this is how you want to think about it. Here are some stages. If you don't have a sales funnel set up today, here are some stages that you might want to think about in your funnel. Discovery means you're just learning about your potential customer and the challenges and the opportunities that your product or service can solve for them. And then demo is showing them how your product or service actually solves for those challenges and opportunities that we learned about in the discovery. We won't go into that too much, but if you need any help with this, like I said, I'm going to have a QR code for you to set up some time with me at the end of this. If you're interested in some more individualized one-on-one support, we could go through a funnel. Okay, here are the 3 things that you're going to start doing this year to close more business. Number 1, discovery. You're going to ask deeper questions in discovery. Now, I know some of you who are comfortable with sales or even doing sales today might say, I'm already doing discovery, so I can skip over that. Stick with me because I'm going to show you how to do discovery in a way that you might not be doing it today. Number 2, you're going to start selling value over price. Now, if you're anything like me, you might be thinking, yeah, that sounds good and great. How am I going to stop people from just focusing on what my price is and really shift their mindset to the value that I offer? It's a challenge, but I'm going to give you one line that you can start implementing into your sales process so that you can start focusing on the value, not just necessarily the price. And then finally, the third thing you're going to do is you're going to get really methodical about your follow-up. This is potentially your biggest advantage in closing deals because 44% of salespeople give up after only one follow-up. But the majority of sales actually take 5+ follow-ups to close. And so if you follow up even 2, 3, 4 times, you're doing more than the majority of other salespeople. And so you're going to leverage this tactic to close more deals. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, let's dive into it. Discovery. How many of you do discovery today? And this is where you're learning about your customers and what they need. Maybe just raise your hand if you're doing discovery today, or throw a yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yeah. Tanya and Cami are. No, not doing discovery. Thanks, Angela. Okay. 46% of deals are lost due to no decision, which means that they didn't actually go with a competitor. They didn't make a decision to do something else. It's just that they stayed with their status quo. Majority of people are going to stay with the status quo, not because something was better, but because you as the salesperson didn't uncover something that was strong enough for them to act. And I always use this really exciting example. My husband and I told you we moved here from the East Coast. We bought our first house in over Memorial Day of 2018 in Rockville, Maryland. It's just right outside of Washington, D.C., if you're familiar with the area. And when we bought the house, we knew that the house needed a fence. We had a 4-year-old golden retriever at the time named Finn, and we knew Finn needed a fence. And so when we moved in over Memorial Day weekend, the next day, I called all of these fence companies and they came out and they all asked me these questions like, do you want an iron rod fence, or do you want a wood fence, or do you want a metal fence, and how high do you want it to be? And do you want it to be a privacy fence or a fence that people can see through? And they were asking me all of these questions about the fence. And then they gave me a quote for the fence. And what did I do with the quote? Anyone? I took the quote and I put them all in my junk drawer, never to be seen again. Because Finn, my 4-year-old at the time, 4-year-old golden retriever, was a great dog. He would go out and he would just do his business and come right back in. I knew we needed a fence, but it wasn't that we really needed a fence. I'm sure some people can relate, where it's like something you know you need to do, but do you really need to do it? This was one of those examples. And so in the morning, I'd be in my pajamas and I'd go out and it would be cold and fine, but it wasn't uncomfortable enough that I needed to call the fence people. And at nighttime, I'd have to get up from watching my shows and go stand, and the light was on and there were bugs circling. I would definitely get bit while I was waiting there for Finn to come back in, but it wasn't uncomfortable enough that I called the fence people. Until Labor Day weekend of 2018, my husband and I were sitting outside eating dinner. Finn was sitting right at our feet, as he always does, the great boy that he was. And all of the sudden, he bolted across our front lawn, right through the street, over into our neighbor's yard, into their woods behind their house. He had seen a fox and he took off. Now, what I didn't tell you is that the street we lived on was a rather busy street. There was an elementary school at the end of the street. And so any other time of day, morning or around 3 p.m., cars were just racing up and down this street. I truly believe any other time of day, this outcome for Finn could have been completely different. But because it was dinner time, there wasn't a lot of movement on the street. He was okay. He came right back in. But what did I do? Anyone know? The second I got Finn safe on my property, what did I do? I'll give you a hint. I marched right back into my house. I opened the junk drawer and I immediately called the fence people. Because it's not until the pain actually impacts your life that you make a decision. And so if you have people right now where you have a bunch of quotes out there, or you have a bunch of interest and you can't figure out why they're not closing with you, I would suggest that they're not closing with competitors. Oftentimes it's because they're just sitting in inaction. They're not doing anything. And the way to move somebody from inaction is to ask questions that really understand what happens if they do make a change. What happens if they don't? Is it an option for them to stay in the status quo? And the more you do that, the more you dig and do this deeper discovery, you're going to understand if people are really serious about purchasing your product or if staying in their status quo is an option for them. And a great way to do that is this one line down here, which is just tell me more about that. So if I were to ask you, excuse me, I have a cold today. But if I were to ask you, does Finn run away? And I say, no, he's fine. You might say, okay, there's been an increase in foxes in the area. I'm not sure if you know, I know you just recently moved. We've seen a bunch of critters, gophers and foxes. Could you tell me a little bit more if Finn were to see one across the street, what would his reaction to that be? Because now I'm starting to get my buyer into the mindset that I really need a fence to protect from this trend that I, as the expert in the fence industry, am seeing happening here in Rockville, Maryland. So the number one thing you're going to start doing is start asking deeper questions. If in discovery, you're only asking, what type of fence do you want? Those are very situational questions. You might think you're doing a deep dive, but you're really not. Try to get to the impact of what this decision could actually mean for the person that you're speaking to. Okay, number 2, this one's the value selling. This is how we're going to stop you from competing on price. That alone is a race to the bottom. If you only focus on being the cheapest, you're going to attract price-sensitive clients who churn fast, meaning they don't renew with you, and they don't ultimately appreciate your quality of service. The thing here is that clients don't really buy based on price. They often buy based on perceived value. So if they see the benefits of something, the return on investment or the long-term impact of your service, they'll justify a higher price. It's the exact reason that we have Starbucks out in the world. You could get a cup of coffee for much cheaper, but because people associate it with more of a luxury service, they're justifying the higher price. So that's what we want to help you do. And the way we're going to do that is by leading with your problem-solving impact instead of just the features. So let's say you're a roofing company. What you might say to somebody is, we offer the best roofing materials, and for that, because of that, our price is a little bit higher. Well, here's the thing about that. No one else is going to say that the roofing materials are subpar, right? Those are the features. If you're just competing on features, it's easy for somebody else to say, hey, no, we also offer great roofing materials. And now you, as the buyer who knows nothing about roofing materials, finds it pretty hard to differentiate which roofing material justifies the higher price. So instead of leading with the features of saying, we offer better roofing materials, what you might say is, our roof will save you $500 a year on energy costs and last 15 years longer than our competitors. That's the value of a higher price. It's not the materials. Rather, it's the fact that those materials save you $500 on energy costs and last 15 years longer than any of our competitors. So you're not going to have to buy a new roof 5 to 10 years down the line. Another line that you might think to do this when you want to focus on what your value is rather than just your price is to say, I don't just blank, I blank. So if you're a realtor, you might say, I don't just find homes, but rather I handle negotiations, inspections, and closing that can ultimately save you time and stress. You're focusing on the value you're going to deliver to your client so that it's not just this apples to apples comparison. It becomes so easy, especially in very competitive industries, to stand out and to differentiate yourself. And the last way to do value selling is to use social proof. So these are stories of other people where I, as the buyer, can see myself in the story. So let's say you're an insurance broker. You might say something like, I recently had a client who switched to a cheaper plan and then ended up paying thousands in unexpected claims that our policy would have covered. Because now you're showing that the value of our policy covers all of these unexpected claims. Sure, you could go to the cheaper option, but you might have all of these unexpected claims that pop up where you ultimately end up paying more. And that's not me saying it. It's the social proof of somebody else that I know who actually saw it happen firsthand. Any questions before we move on? I just want to make sure I'm monitoring the chat as well. I don't think so, though. Okay. Oops. Hold on one sec. Okay, the final thing you're going to start doing to ultimately close more deals this year is stronger follow-up. I said earlier that 80% of sales require 5+ follow-ups, and over 44% of salespeople will give up only after following up one time. So if you differentiate yourself by following up 5+ times, you have a higher likelihood of winning that deal than all of the salespeople who gave up after just following up one time. Here's the other thing, is that speed matters. So if you have any sort of contact lead form on your website, or if people call you directly, Harvard Business Review found that leads that are followed up with within 5 minutes of contacting your service or business increase conversion rates by 900%. However, most service pros wait too long to ultimately follow up with a lead. So if you get a lead, either through your website or through a call, and you respond within 5 minutes, you are 900 times more likely to close that deal than if you waited longer to close it. So the question then becomes, how do you actually do that? And I have a couple of different ways here that I recommend. Certainly a structured CRM. If you don't have a client relationship manager, I know that there are a lot out there that can make sure that you're elevating leads very quickly. Some people have dedicated people on the team who are solely responsible for following up with leads or responding to leads in a timely manner. I also know people who track their follow-up, maybe even just on a simple Excel sheet. You get a lead and you make sure that you have 5 points of interaction, either through call, text, email, so that you're following up with them those 5+ times. This is how you're going to differentiate yourself, is by staying top of mind and staying on top of your people, so that if they are context switching into something else, they can easily come back. They know your brand. They remember what they were talking to you about. They remember why they inquired with you in the first place. Here's a local brand that does this really, really well. So I'm in the Elkhorn area. And back in January, I contacted this gym here in Elkhorn called Victress. And you could see I called Victress at 2:39 on, I forget what day of the week this was. And Becca, who's the owner of Victress, called me right back within 20 minutes. I later found out she was actually on vacation, and she still called me back within 20 minutes on vacation. I missed that call. But on this first call to Becca, I left her a voicemail and I said, hey, I have a friend who goes to Victress. I'm really interested in joining. I'd like to take a free class. If you could just send me over information on your free class. Well, Becca called me back, and I know this because I've confirmed this with Becca. She wanted to learn more from me on a one-on-one conversation about my fitness goals, about what I was doing today for fitness, about if I was willing to leave that gym and start something new, my commitment level to it. She wanted to ask me all of these questions. She didn't have the opportunity to do that since I missed the call. No problem. You can see here at 3:02. So what is that, about 5 minutes later? Becca sends me this text. Here's the link to reserve my spot for the class. I go ahead and do that. You can see I did that within the hour. So at 4 o'clock, I get an automated message from Becca that says, we can't wait to see you. I signed up for the 6 a.m. class the next day. So you could see 12 hours beforehand at 6 p.m. I get what is also an automated, but okay, automated response from Jamie, who's going to be the coach the next morning, saying how excited she was for me to come and to let her know if I have any questions. And then 1 hour before the class, I also got this message that says, don't forget, you have your class in 1 hour. So I just thought this was a really great prospect life cycle to take me through from inquiry to Becca wanting to be on a call with me to understand what I'm looking for, ultimately getting me into the free class, and then nurturing me to make sure that I attend that free class. What I didn't include was all of the follow-up after my free class that actually got me to sign up. And I am now a member of Victress and have been since January. But a lot of that was because of how top of mind. They never let this be something that was like, you know what, I should join a gym, and then just have that be one thought, right? Because it's your business is so top of mind for you. You spend day in and day out in your business. It's so top of mind for you that sometimes it's hard for us to realize that it's not top of mind for our prospects. Our prospects often have this one idea, like I should join a gym. And it could be really fleeting, and then they never remember it again. So it is your job to stay on top of them, to constantly remind them of why they want this. It could be with landscaping, right? I have this idea that, oh, I want to have beautiful landscaping out in my front yard. You might think that I'm moving with the same urgency that you are because you own a landscaping company and you do this day in and day out and you know how beautiful it could be. For me, it could just be this thought that I had in my mind. And unless you stay on top of me and you follow up constantly, it will just evolve to just be a thought. Okay, so you have the 3 things that you're going to start doing: a deeper discovery, you're going to start selling on value, not just price, and you're going to start doing a stronger follow-up. But what's the one thing that you're going to stop doing so that you can ultimately close more deals? And the one thing you're going to stop doing this year to close more deals is you're going to stop saying, let me know if you have any questions. Why? This seems so small, right? You might add it at the end of your emails. You might say, let me know if you have any questions, and you think you're being really helpful. I'll challenge that to say, I actually don't think you're being helpful really at all. I think you're putting a lot of the effort on the prospect to come up with what those questions are. And more often than not, your prospects and your potential buyers have no idea what questions they should be asking at this stage. For a lot of people, this might be one of the few times that they buy this. If it's interior design, I don't get my house interior designed every month, so I don't know what questions I should be asking about interior design. If it is landscaping or repaving my driveway, I've never done that before, so I don't know what questions I should have at this stage. And that just elongates your sales process because you're thinking that if something comes up, they're going to come to you and ask. And so, of course, I would never just tell you to stop doing something without giving you the alternative of what it should be. So instead, I encourage you to say, or I encourage you to direct your prospects to what they should be thinking about or the next step they should take. So for instance, you might say something like, the most common question I get at this stage is blank. Because then you're nudging people to what they should be thinking about in order to ultimately move towards purchasing your product or service. You might even say something like, I found the next best step is to set up a call and to answer the common questions that I hear. How does next Wednesday at 10 a.m. look for you? Because then you're pushing them to a call where you're going to put all of the questions that you normally get at this stage out in the open and you can answer all of them. Or you might even end with something like, what is still outstanding in your mind that's holding you back from a decision to move forward? What else still needs to be answered for you? It might not even be questions that you have. You might still need to have an answer from your spouse, right? It's not a question that you have to you, the business owner, but what is still outstanding is that I haven't spoken to my spouse yet about this. And so you really want to uncover what are the things that are standing between where you are today and a decision. And ultimately, how do we align on those things that are still outstanding? If it is talking to your spouse, would it be better for us to hop on a call together? Or for me to come and do a walkthrough of what the cabinets might look like for your spouse? Right? There are so many things that could be outstanding that what you really are trying to uncover are not outstanding questions, but the outstanding roadblocks that stand between where your prospect is today and ultimately buying or purchasing your service. Okay, I feel like I really ran through this and I apologize. What outstanding questions do you all have for me? Okay. All right, I'm just going to follow up or give us this last, here's what we're going to start doing. Start on discovery, a deeper discovery. Remember the fence example. If you really don't understand the impact that it has on me as the buyer, it's likely that I will sit in inaction. The value versus price is another thing to start doing. So you might start saying, I don't just blank, I blank. Don't just focus on the features of what you sell. Remember, this was the better roofing materials example, but rather, what do better roofing materials ultimately manifest as for your clients? Is it cost savings? Is it that they don't have to replace the roof 15 years down the line? What is that value to them? And that's what you should lead with. And then finally, you're going to start doing follow-up in a really systematic way. Remember that 5+ follow-ups is the sweet spot. That's where you need to be. Most people are going to give up after 1. Don't be that person. Follow up after 5, if not more. And then finally, stop saying, let me know if you have any questions. Instead, try to direct them towards what the next step or the common questions or the common roadblocks that you see in your sales are, and then help them overcome that pretty proactively. If you've enjoyed any of my thought leadership on this, or if you have any questions, I offer free individualized sales help. So that's for service providers, for product providers, anything. My background is in SaaS, which is software as a service, but I'm more than happy to connect with any of you for a free session on helping you really achieve your 2025 sales goals. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much to the Grow Nebraska team and to everyone who attended. Thank you so very much.
Yes. Yeah. No, thank you so much, Alyssa. And we do have a question here. Culturally, is the number and time between follow-ups different for rural versus bigger cities? And then any reference materials you would suggest?
For follow-up specifically, I don't know. I did like a kind of search on follow-up. So all of the materials, like the Harvard Business Review that I referenced, that has a 900% increase if you follow up within the first 5 minutes. That's just kind of pulling from a bunch of different sources. So I'm happy to share those sources if that would be relevant. You know, I don't know rural versus a larger city in the follow-up time, but I will say I think there's something that's pretty universal with people not context switching to something else. And I find that all the time, right? So if I'm thinking right now, I need to get my dog groomed and I call because that's what I'm thinking about right now. You probably all know this. 5 minutes from now, I'm on to something else. I'm not thinking about getting my dog groomed for the remainder of the day, right? Then I have to go pick my kids up from school and I have to make a doctor's appointment. I have to figure out what I'm cooking for dinner, and you're on to the next thing really quickly. And I think that's really universal. So, my gut would be that I don't think there's much difference in the follow-up time between rural and a larger city, because I think we want to try to catch people while they're still thinking about the thing that they were thinking about. So you want to catch me while I'm still thinking about dog grooming before I start moving on to my kids' doctor's appointments and what I'm cooking for dinner and the fact that I haven't gotten end of year teacher gifts yet. Right. So that would be my advice there.
Thank you. I know I had a question kind of about like the 5+ follow-ups. Is there ever a time where is there a time in between, like a sweet spot of how many maybe days you should wait between follow-ups so you don't seem too pushy?
Yeah. So I think the way to not feel pushy is to also just, and I could lead an entire webinar on this too. A lot of people will follow up with like, hey, just following up. Hey, it's me again, just following up. And so the way to not feel pushy is if you follow up with something that actually is of value. And so what I've seen is even people on their lead forms, I know that you don't want to add in more data points for them to fill out. But some people might even say like, hey, what brought you here? Or what project are you looking for? What do you need, right? Let's go back to the fence example. If I submitted a lead for a fence and the fence people followed up with me, I submitted it on Monday, they followed up with me on Monday, I didn't respond, they follow up with me on Wednesday, I don't respond, they follow up with me on Friday, I still am not responding. What they might say is, hey, Alyssa, I saw your inquiry for a fence. That could be because you, like some of your neighbors, are seeing an increase in foxes and gophers in the area. Hope that a pet or a beloved pet, to be redundant, didn't get out. Let me know if a fence is still a priority for you. Because now I'm offering something, right? I'm not just saying, hey, it's me again, me again. That's why I think people feel really pushy when they're following up. So what I'd encourage you to do is try to find some way to offer value. What I just did in that example was I educated my person that there's a rise of foxes and gophers in the area. So if you're not thinking about it, this is what you should be thinking about. Or I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's why you contacted me. Maybe you're seeing the same thing that a bunch of your neighbors have seen, right? But now I have some sort of meaty thing to call back on that isn't just me again. Okay, like you up, that kind of stuff.
Yes, no, thank you.
Okay.
We have another question here. Do you have a template/script for the common questions people ask, or is it better to know your main points so that your response sounds more natural?
Yeah, great question, Maria. I would encourage you to think of all the common questions that your buyers or prospects would ask you. The majority of them, if you wanted to put them into buckets, people usually ask about price. People usually ask about competitors. People usually ask about like implementation time. How long is this going to take from the time from where I am today to it being fully done? If I sometimes work with a lot of people who it takes a long time. So for instance, they're pulling up carpeting, right? And they're a carpeting business. What is the disruption to everything else in my house, right? Like start to think through just from the time people buy to the time it's done, where are the pain points in that? And I think sometimes only you as the business owner know those main points. But or you could even think through all of your sales calls that you've ever had. What are the most common questions you get from people on those? And then your second part of your question, is it better to know your main points so that your responses sound more natural? For sure. I think you probably already know this by the very nature of you being the expert in your business. And that's what I really mean when I say, don't ask, let me know if you have any questions. You as the business owner run these sales processes time and time again. You know what people ask, you know what people care about. If I am buying interior design one time in my life, I don't know what the questions should be. And so really differentiate yourself as the expert there. I think you'll sound natural just by way of by being the expert, to be honest. Maria, that answered your question.
Awesome. Well, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to keep popping them in the chat. Oh, we have another question. Oh, Donna just said thank you for the first question that was asked.
Thank you for the questions. I appreciate it. And for some of the people who might have been like Lego walk, not in sales, hopefully these are some easy things that can move you a little bit more towards even the root canal. Maybe we could just get you to root canal. It's a necessary evil. I'm going to give you some Novocaine and you're going to be okay. Like maybe we'll just move. Hawaii vacation is too far away for you. That's okay. We're just taking small baby steps in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I know this has been really helpful. So we'll kind of let people kind of think a little more. If you have questions, pop them into the chat, send them our way. We'll keep asking her. I know my challenge is definitely to let me know if you have any questions. We looked at each other and we're like, you're onto something. This makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So why people are kind of still thinking about what they're going to start implementing. Um, we want to bring to your attention that we have 2 more upcoming webinars for June. So save the date. Major UPC changes are coming down the pipeline. It's not set till 2027, but they're so major that if you are in that industry or know somebody who deals with UPCs on their products, plug into this webinar so you can start being actively or being proactive about it. It's going to be great. Roy Norn is leading that one. So get registered for June 19th for UPC changes. June 26th is create content, a month of content in 1 day for your social media. That is huge. Everyone needs more time. And so, again, if you would like more time in your life, you are going to want to engage. We have Jasmine Stock. She was at Market Tech with us in March. And so, if you guys joined us there, you know that she is going to bring a lot of great knowledge. And so, also be sure to register for that. They are live, and so just go to grownebraska.org and trainings, and you'll find them there. We are checking the chat again. We don't see any other follow-up, but we will send this recording out and all of the great information. And if you have questions, whether it's about Grow Nebraska, if you have a webinar or topic you would like to discuss, be sure to drop Tanya and I a note, either call or email us. And finally, in that follow-up email, we are going to have a little survey. So let us know how awesome Alyssa was today. And we will send that feedback onto her as well. And so again, thank you for joining our training. Thank you, Alyssa. We got a lot out of the training, so we know that other people that attended did as well. And so we look forward to having everyone on come June.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.